You see the new robes they're wearing? Aren't they nice? Pretty and handsome. For those of you who don't know, this is their first Sunday back after a summer break, and it makes such a difference to be able to have people who can sing behind me, other than Sandra, who's a wonderful singer as well. Today I'm going to talk about problems. Well, first of all, I'm going to talk about life. And life is problems. Since the very beginning, there have been problems, there have been challenges, there have been setbacks that have imposed themselves on human beings and tried to stall the process of moving forward. And we've solved so many of those problems. Every problem has a solution, and if there's not a solution, it's not a problem, they often say. And where there's a will, there's a way. And nobody embodies that better, in my estimation, than my cousin Ozzy. He has a very unique way of solving problems. Not necessarily conventional, but he does find a way to either solve them or to get around them one way or the other. He called me up, oh gosh, some time back. He wanted to borrow $100. And we have this agreement that I'll loan him money, but he can't borrow more money from me until he pays the previous loan back. And he did owe me some money, so I said, Ozzy, you remember our agreement? I cannot loan you money until you pay back the previous loan. And he says, but this is serious. This goes towards a greater agreement than what you and I have, and I really need the money. Out of curiosity, I said, how so? He said, well, David Norberg, Ole Sandvig, Ivan Olson, and myself were at Lars's Tavern, and we were having a couple of brews, and we were talking about different things, and it came to the subject of what happens to us when we die. Well, the only thing any of us knew was what Pastor Lindquist had told us at the Lutheran Church when we got confirmed like 60 years ago. And so we started talking about this concept of heaven. And we all came to the agreement that it might be kind of iffy when we go if we're going to be ushered in. There might not be a warm welcome there. So we decided to buy our way in. We said that the church are houses of God, and the one thing that churches love more than anything else, and excuse me people, but I'm going to take you out of this, is offerings. We love offerings because that's the energy that keeps things going and it keeps the lights on. So we decided that if we gave God an offering, he might look kindly on us and let us in. The way to do this, we determined, was whenever the first one died, the other three at the funeral would go up and put a $100 bill inside his coat pocket, and when he got to heaven, he'd give that offering to God and put in a good word for us. Well, Ole Sandvig died, the funeral's coming up, and Ozzy didn't have the $100. So he wanted to borrow it from me. I said, the deal's the deal, Ollie, I can't give you the money. Well, I didn't talk to him for about 2 weeks, and finally I called him out of curiosity, and I said, how'd the funeral go? He says, actually, it went pretty well. He says, we went to the Lutheran Church. Ole was in the casket up front. David Norberg goes up, takes a $100 bill, and puts it in his pocket. He said, then Ivan Olson goes up, takes a $100 bill, puts it in his pocket. And then it was my turn. So I went up. I took a check for $300, put it in his pocket, and took 200 change. It's a solution. Okay. On to more serious things. You know, since the beginning of modern human being, which is about 40,000 years ago, when we developed this incredible ability to reflect on things and ask why, and to imagine. Reflection and imagine came forth in the human being, two incredible powers that could have been deemed as being enlightened at that point in time. Reflection and imagination. Since that time, people have been pondering the big questions of life, like who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? So if I ask you that question today, where did you come from? You know, the simplest answer would be from my parents, okay? Where did your parents come from? Well, they came from their parents. And where their parents come from? their parents, and their parents, and goes back and back and back, and it has to go all the way back to the beginning. There wasn't a space in the middle where things magically appeared. It has to go all the way back to the beginning, which was the Big Bang 14 billion years ago. That's when it all began. In the beginning, there was nothing. There was just this void. There was an absence of all physical substance. And then all of a sudden, in less than a second, there was this explosion, and the universe for millions of miles was filled with material substance, a substance of a physicality for the first time. And they were tiny little quarks, subatomic bits of energy. Well, these little quarks began to congregate together, and over a couple billion years, and they formed huge supernova stars, stars that are 1,000 times bigger than our sun. And these stars grew to the point they became so big they couldn't contain themselves, and they exploded out and spewed minerals and elements throughout the universe. These didn't exist before. They didn't exist inside the star. It's the explosion that created these minerals that are necessary for us to live, like oxygen and hydrogen and all those other things. They came forth from that mighty explosion. Since that time, evolution took over, and it has been on a steady path going forward from one-cell amoebas to double cells to the molecular dimension, and just continue to build and build and build and build until here we are. That's where we came from. That's where you came from. That's where your parents came from. We all started with this huge energy, this spirit that came forth from the Big Bang. And the atoms that were formed at that time are exactly the same atoms that are in your body right now. Now think about that. 14 billion years ago, atoms were formed, and those atoms make up the foundation of your existence. That is miraculous. It's incredible. And it also explains why I feel tired at times. I've been at this for 14 billion years, it seems like. The atoms need to rest. So here we are. Everything you see has come forth from that initial start of the Big Bang. We as human beings are standing at the forefront of evolution. We are the leaders. We are the ones that are responsible for moving evolution on, for elevating life to higher standards of well-being, greater expressions of love, and a greater sense of being alive for people. That is our duty. That is our responsibility. But that doesn't mean that we're at the end. It doesn't mean that we graduated and that we're now the ones that have arrived or have become enlightened. It just means that we're a process in this evolutionary stream that is now being called on to take the next step forward. The lessons that we have to learn is how to overcome all of those things that hold us back, that stop us from participating in life, that stop us from stepping forward, that hold us back from truly living life the best we can. And the number one thing is fear. Many of us here, myself included, we're afraid of different aspects of life. And I'm not talking about the fear for survival or the fear for safety for ourselves or our loved ones. I'm talking about fears that don't even exist. We fear things that might happen in the future. And most of them never do. I think 92% of the things we fear might happen in the future never happen. We fear what other people might think of us. And so we begin to change ourselves so that we can win their affection, so that they will like us. We fear events of the past, that our lives just didn't turn out the way we thought they would. We didn't have the parents we thought we would. We didn't marry the first spouse that we thought we would. We didn't have the college education we thought we would. And that brings on a lot of remorse, a lot of regret, a lot of guilt and shame at times. We fear ourselves. We fear that we are not what we should be, that we are not good enough. Somehow, some way, we have that tangled message from old-time religion that says we are unworthy in the eyes of God because we were born in sin. And we fear that. We fear that God will abandon us or that God won't come forth with us. We fear so many things, and that's holding us back from stepping forward. You know, from the time we're able to understand we are given messages, or messages are imposed upon us, telling us how we should be, what we should do, where we should go, and how we should live our lives. And after getting those messages and responding to them, time after time after time, it gets to the point where we really don't know who we are. I'm just a fabrication of life over the last so many years. The point that I'm trying to make today, for your satisfaction, for your joy, for your serenity, there has to be something in you that allows you to break through all of that that's holding back and step forward. Now, what is it that you trust to the point where that trust never wavers? Unconditional trust, unequivocal trust. What is it that you trust in, that you count on? What is the rock that you stand in that allows you to be unwavered in the midst of strong winds or dark times? Sometimes it's people, but I had my trust broken with a lot of people in the past. You know, sometimes it is material things. I trust my car will get me where I want to go. I have a flat tire or something goes on, that trust is broken. So what do you trust? The one thing that we can trust in is God. Because God is never changing. God is always there. God is the energy that was there at the Big Bang. God is that energy, that spirit, the makeup of our soul that is within us. God is always there, and we have to take that giant leap forward and trust in God, whatever your definition of God is. Some people believe it's an old man on a throne up in the sky. That's fine if you can trust unequivocally in that God, great. Some people believe it's the mind of the universe. That is great. Some people believe it's nature. It doesn't make any difference, but you have to establish your trust in something that's going to allow you a foundation of confidence and courage and allow you to draw on your strength and your power when you run into difficult times. Somebody once said, if you go through life without trust, it's like trying to ice skate at a roller skating rink. It just doesn't work. You put through the motions, but it's not going to work for you. Trust is the key. Now, I trust in the sun. I trust that, and when the darkness comes at night, the light will reappear in the morning. Anybody here that doesn't trust in the sun? Probably not. I trust in the air that we breathe, that it is made up of exactly the right elements. And if it varied less than a percent, we wouldn't be able to breathe the air, but it is always there. I never doubt that I'm going to wake up in the morning and I won't have air to breathe. I trust in gravity. I don't know what it is. I don't know how it works. I just know that if I step off this stage, I'm going to fall to the ground. Well, I trust that. So why is it so difficult for us to trust in God? God is just like those other things. God is beyond our senses, and we are human beings too. We're sensory beings. All of our life experience pretty much comes through our senses. You know, we see something, we hear something, we smell something, taste something, whatever it might be. So when we move to a dimension that is free of all sensory feeling, we begin to doubt. But the question is why? Are you doubting yourself? Are you doubting life itself? Because it's all God. If we have one thing we can say to define God, it is God is it all. Everything. That means there is no separation between myself and my enemy. That we are both expressions of God's Spirit. That means that if I do something bad that injures somebody else, I do something bad to myself and injure myself. Because there is no separation. What I'm calling on you today to do is to begin to practice your trust. So all of those fears go away. Never again should you fear that you're not good enough, or that you're unworthy in the eyes of God, or that you should be something other than what you are. You didn't become what your mom or dad wanted you to be. Never again should you fear that. Never again should you fear that somebody is going to reject you because of the way you are, and you just won't come over to how they expect you to be. Never again. Never again will you fear the future, because you know whatever lies in the future, you have the power of 14 billion years of evolution within you to move forward and overcome those challenges and problems. Never fear again. That is possible for each and every one of us. But it all begins with trust. That is the foundation we build on. And we can do that. You know, every other creature, other than the human species, has trust in something, and primarily it's their instincts, which are governed by God or put forth by God, but they trust that. I've never seen an animal look in the mirror and think, boy, did I get a raw deal on this one. How did I become an English bulldog and the next door neighbor's a collie? It just isn't fair. Trust is the key. Now, next Sunday, we're talking about the 5 principles of unity. And next Sunday at the principles class, we're going to talk about God and how God shows up in our life. And we're going to talk about things that are undisputable when it comes to the things that we can trust in that will always be there for us. So you think about that. Think about those times when you're untrusting. For some reason, you just fear. You don't trust that power, that God is going to be there for you. And it's time to move beyond that. It's time to take the next step and have 100% trust in God, and then let that trust flow out to trusting life itself. We'll now move into meditation.